All right, so hope to see folks out and about in the world. Today we're going to talk about upcoming release that won't be this weekend; it'll be next weekend. So it's St. Patrick's Day. We figure you're probably not life cycling on the evening of the 17th at an Irish pub, and so we're safe to to send out a new release. Also, next week we have a webinar coming up, and that is. Don't leave your account manager KPIs to luck. So we had a conversation about this kind of a couple weeks ago on this call, and it was a popular conversation. So they're doing a webinar about it. If you haven't registered, I did send that email out earlier today, but there's a registration I put in the chat. And that is the story there. So with that, I'm going to move on and jump into Lifecycle. So I am in one of our dev branches. So that means, of course, this is going to be a little bit slower, but they gave me access to some pieces and parts that, again, won't be released this weekend, but next weekend. So actually, I want to show two different, let me pull up another one as well, because we've got a couple different releases going out. Those of you that were in customer success yesterday, we're updating some of the menu permissions to make sure that the pieces that we wouldn't want external clients to see, they won't be able to see. So if you watch that video, you'll know what I'm talking about there. We're doing a little refresh on a couple of our tables just to start tidying up the UI and making it consistent. So I want you to look here at the asset list. Again, it's going to take a second to load on Dev. So right now we have tables, and this is a minor update, but we are going to be releasing sort of a cleaner UI where, we've taken out some of the vertical lines. It just looks a little bit cleaner, a little more modern look. But if you decide you like tables, we're going to start putting some options in your profile where here, for example, you can turn off the table borders. This is where you can enable MFA. So the profile is slowly going to start building up. But just so you know, the look and feel of some of the reporting will be cleaned up along the way. But I'm not here just to talk about prettier reports. We're here to talk about some other functionality. So in recommendations, this has definitely been a popular request recently. You can see the column in the middle here. Whoop, I hid the column in the middle. So what do you know now? Let me go into list view. Actually, I'm going to stay in this view. If you look at this tile here, you can see that I've got a tag called core. So if I click into a recommendation, I'm now able to create tags for my recommendations. So let's think about why we might want to tag recommendations. Anybody with me? Kirk, I feel like you might want to tag these with like priorities to be able to filter out recommendations as you're having conversations. That was sort of the most popular driver for this. One of the other drivers for this is core versus ancillary, right? So if you're making recommendations around your firewall, your MFA, security practices that are baseline requirements that you really want to encourage them to have, you would want to tag those recommendations as core, and then maybe some ancillary or second tier priority type of things. So like everything else in Lifecycle, you can create your own tags, and then you will be able to filter the reporting by those tags. Would love for folks to either come off mute or to put in chat if you have ideas for ways to use tags and recommendations, so that other folks can get a sense of what we may want to do with them.
I just did a really big one yesterday doing a QBR with a customer, and just being able to split out the locations or high priority versus ancillary next year. It's huge. I could have used that yesterday. Super glad to see that coming.
We like you to feel a little bit of the pain,
Yeah,
so
just
you
like a
love the
little
release
FOMO.
so much more.
Yeah,
That's
I
my
wish I was
story.
a developer, but I'm not that guy.
Yeah, and I mean, Marty, from my point, and I actually did one Wednesday where there were more recommendations than normal. I like the prioritization, but I also would love to be able to just manually organize so I can move them up and down the
Yep.
way that we do it. You know, it kind of goes along with what you and I were talking about a few weeks ago about that in Cut CS also, where we want to be able to organize things a little bit. And I know that's a pain in the neck from a programmers. It's a nightmare of moving things on the screen, but there are times that you want to paint a different picture that categorization or prioritization isn't always there. Sometimes you have to take the bat out and put it out right in front of them and hit them over the head.
Well, it's interesting because when you say that, the tagging column will be able to sort alphabetically. So if in fact you do, if you can say like A, B, C, and then filter this, all of your A's will bubble to the top. So we're kind of getting closer to it, for sure. I see Kirk put in there critical, like things that they must have, cybersecurity, absolutely. And you can multi-tag items. So something could be both critical and cybersecurity, if you had different reasons for filtering them. So I think this is a big win, for sure, for folks. The next piece I want to look at is, this is probably my favorite piece, especially since knowing next week we're going to talk about the KPIs on the webinar with Alex, and that is in Scheduler. So in Scheduler, these tiles should look brand new. Oh yeah, that's a good one, Andrew. Oh, you know what? So in the chat, I want to shout it out for people that are listening, don't have access to the chat. He has put in hardware purchase versus project. I do wonder, so Greg, since I can see you, if this would, if maybe we could tag things that didn't have recurring cost or did, if we wanted to be able to filter out, right? Here's kind of a manual control. Basically, it lets you do the wild card if you need it. It's not the solution you were looking for, but I think it's interesting of how we might be able to tag some pieces and parts.
We had talked about, so like what I was doing is, as I was prepping a meeting and I have 40 recommendations across the next 2 years, I would put an exclamation point in front of the name for the ones that I knew I needed to talk about that time at that meeting. And then I would go into the search filter and search exclamation point. So
Right.
then it would filter it down and say, here's everything that's going on, guys. It's a lot, but these are the ones we have to talk about today. It was a clever workaround, but this tag is going to be way better for that.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And
I'm
then
all
we
about a
also-
life hack if we need a hack. Like I'll do
Yeah.
workarounds like nobody's business, but it is better to have the functionality for sure.
What else was nice though is at the end of the meeting when I'm now like unpacking what did we decide and what did we do, I could just remove the exclamation point off each one as I cleared it. I knew what we were doing was done.
So you were good. I mean, that's also something we might be able to use other places, right? But I do think this tagging will we'll be able to move things forward.
One of the other things we did,
Sorry, I have to laugh because Kirk just put in their tag on what the revenue will mean for the owner. Like you can now buy a Tesla, your second home, etc. Sorry, go ahead, Greg.
this is actually not that far off from that. We want to start tracking what is IT debt spending, the things that are IT debt spending versus what is the reason we're doing it. So are you doing it to improve security? Are you doing it to improve availability? Are you doing it to improve productivity? Just to give that, because we use those three a lot with our clients.
Yep.
Just so they're like, we're doing this because it's old. That's it. Versus we're doing it because it's improving security, and being able to look at those different layers when we do our planning has been something we've been looking forward to.
So that whole notion of aligning two goals, right? So if there were tags that associated to the goals so that you could just say like, yes, this all rolls up to your goal of X, Y, or Z, right? That's huge because now we're making it about them and not about just, hey, I brought some sheets of paper for you to sign because we wanted some money. So yeah, I like that a lot. So So while we've been talking tags, I've had the screen pop up with the scheduler pieces. So I suspect we've already noticed the tiles in the middle that don't currently exist in Lifecycle, right? For those of you that came in late, this is a release that's going out St. Patrick's Day weekend. So not this weekend, St. Patrick's Day weekend. So we have had a lot of people start asking about, I want to track how many QBRs have been completed, how many do I still need to deliver, how many are past due, and how many have been skipped or canceled in certain time windows. So this is the other piece. Now we can filter by this month, this quarter, last quarter, the next 3 months. But probably my favorite is the custom, where I would want to see this past quarter and the next 2 quarters coming. So now the tiles update and in addition to the table that is displaying, and I can see how many have been done, not done. And all of the filtering at the top is new. So I could multi-select companies if I only wanted to look at a few of the companies. One of the things I'll show you in the business review is you're now going to be able to associate a business review to an account manager. So I can now look at all of Nick and Alex's business reviews. So we're starting to see like, oh, Brian, do you have your hand? Oh, you do have your hand up. What's up, Brian? Sorry, I missed you.
That's all right. I was being polite. If you want to finish this, I had some comments on the tags whenever
Okay.
you're done.
Yeah,
talking
let me
about
go through this
Yeah.
page and I'll go back to tags. Yeah, Alex, this Ivanov on the chat for sure. I think this is where we've definitely had some conversations. So here you could filter by a company contact if you needed to. But you can also start looking at things like, I've scheduled all of these to be quarterly. How am I doing on my quarterly business reviews versus how am I doing on my monthly business reviews, et cetera. So we're really starting to build toward what I think you can imagine more reporting around, are we hitting the targets that we are aiming for? I often say in education, we always talked about what is inspected is what is expected. That's why the scheduler page is here. We can also look at, am I hitting my business reviews versus the other types of conversations that we're handling, et cetera. So I think this is really important. 2 other little minor pieces. If you forget what the icons mean, we added the legend here. And also, because who doesn't love to manage columns? We now have the gear on this page too, so that you can select or deselect which columns you want to print out, which I think helps tremendously along the way. So that is kind of the new update here. And before I go to the next piece, Brian, I'm going to go back to recommendations and tags so we can talk about tags.
Yeah, so the first thought I actually had, and you brought it up at the end, was, oh, I want to be able to tag that this relates to a goal, right? But I'm thinking even deeper, if we're taking the time to enter a goal and it's a record, why not just be able to relate a recommendation to a goal and then be able to go to goals and then see all the recommendations linked to that goal, right?
So if you have customer success, and not everybody on this call does, so fair warning, if you don't see that click I just did, it's because you don't have the customer success module, which is an additional cost. So I don't want to dilute anybody there. But inside of goals, you now can associate a recommendation. So you can
Nice.
put a recommendation to a goal. And the end result is going to be able to build your agenda based on goals. So we have this notion of customer facing, not customer facing, to start the plumbing to force that exact conversation. So now you can track which percentage of the like how much of this goal have we accomplished based on tasks and recommendations. And you can also link contracts to it as well. So that's exactly where we're heading.
That's great. And then on the tag view, you did mention the kind of the sort column ability.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to tags, it might be better to have like a filter where it's like, hey, in this column, show only these tags. right?
Yeah, so you can do that here. So you can filter
Okay,
the
perfect.
tags
perfect.
also. So what would be great is if you always mention something and we've already built it, so I could just be like, yep, we're doing it. Like, it just looks like they're on point. But that is exactly, so I mentioned
Okay.
to Steve that you can filter by columns. So if he put ABC tags, but also had other tags, you would
Yeah,
just filter for A, B, and C, and then would sort the column by that.
and then would sort. Okay, I missed that earlier. I
Well, it's
apologize.
because I forgot to mention it. So like, let's be fair, that was on me. But you can filter by the tags. The other thing I like is they've cleaned up the board view. So the status is now in the top and then the tags are down below. So you can multi-select tags. And again, you can see at the top, you can filter by the tags. So I think everybody will have a different use case for it, but I think there's a lot of power. If nothing else, you know that we at Lifecycle are nerds for sorting, swatching, filtering data every which way from Tuesday. The other piece I wanted to show
Hey,
is,
Marty, real quick, on goals, is there still no way to show goals to a customer without showing the entire how we've scored them in our system inside of customer success?
not yet, but that's what we're aiming to do is put it into like Agenda Builder, like I mentioned, in Report Builder on this side of the house, so you don't have to send them there.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I know you are. We're as fast as we can. As a matter of fact, we made an offer to another developer today. So like, we're literally trying as fast as we can. So in business reviews, I'm going to click into an individual review. So a couple new pieces here that are slightly nuanced. Part of this will only be for folks who have customer success. And Alex, I hope you're still listening because this was one of your requests. So first up, some of this is just slightly nuanced, but you can now associate an internal account manager to this particular account. And you can also type for both this and the contact column. So I know searching sometimes easier, again, nuanced, but nice to have. You can, when you modify meeting attendees, I know this has been a pain point for folks. You don't have to hold the command and select. You can now just multi-select along the way. And you can search here for, again, the contacts that you have, just for easier sorting, swatching, moving around, etc. So this allows you to update that. Another new piece here is you can now link a recommendation to that business review itself. So let's think about what that means in terms of reporting. I am going to be able to say, in this quarter, I had X number of business reviews. I delivered this many recommendations. And also over time, I will be able to say, Greg has presented this recommendation in 3 business reviews and they have not accepted it. So that is a stale recommendation, which we might want to level up, right? If we can give you the headline of, hey, you've already sent them this 4 times. What do you want to do about it, right? Is that never going to happen? Do you need to shake the carpet out? Like, what's going to go on there? But what the other piece that we would really like to do is help you get insights into which of your clients are buying in versus which of your clients are becoming slightly stale. So some of the things that we've heard, and I've actually heard this from some coaches too, is that just because someone is paying you your managed service revenue monthly and not making comments on it, they are much more likely to churn if they have not done any additional paid projects with you in the past year. So that's an indicator of churn. So what we want to say is, are they accepting your recommendations or are they just paying your managed service agreement and they've never actually accepted any of your recommendations in the past year? So by linking a recommendation to a business review, we will help you report out on this. This next piece that I'm going to show will only show up in your platform if you have customer success, because the reporting will land over there. So draw that line in the sand. Up here, you can see that I've got business review standards and I've scored 100%. we want to start letting you score the effectiveness of a quarterly business review. Right. So did the decision maker show? Yes. Did recommendations get accepted? No. Did stack alignment improve? Maybe. These questions are completely customizable. So you can see again, now I'm scoring this business review. So I can say, hey, Greg's got a 95% on all of his business reviews and Marnie's at her 25%, right? She never gets the decision maker to show up. She didn't take donuts, right? Whatever your questions would be. So in our account settings, also a fair question, Kirk. Inside account settings, there will be a business review manager. And this is where you can go from. So these are your business review meeting types, but you can also define your standards. These business review standards, this is a change from yesterday. For those of you that were on the customer success call, we absolutely updated it so that it will only show for internal users. So your clients will not see this, even if you give them access to this page. So I know that was a question yesterday, so I want to be clear on that. So you can ask all of these questions. And then again, score them. And the reporting for this will live in customer success. That's not built out yet, but this is the plumbing for that. So you can imagine an Excel spreadsheet, right, where it says all of those questions with red, yellow, greens of whether or not how they responded. So we can really start managing the effectiveness of business reviews. One of the things that they brought up yesterday on the call is we don't have this built yet, but we are going to build the functionality where you could send out a single question that says, did the client, right? Did you as the client think this was an effective business review? Because you would hope that me scoring it as an effective business review would mirror what the client said. And any mismatch there is something that you would need to address, internally in terms of like, we're misaligned on goals, et cetera.
Are you saying like a post-meeting survey direct to the client? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Marty, I want to ask a bad question. Sorry if it is a bad question.
That's okay.
How come you're developing this scoring system inside of this module instead of just making an assessment that links to an assessment, which is a module you already have built that you would use these kind of questions?
Yeah, so because this would be internal to you, that we can just control, right? And you're scoring the business review on this page, and then the reporting is going to link to a different style of reporting. So it's not a customer facing type of piece, and it's really just for the account manager. So we're associating this specifically to an account manager as opposed to an assessment that lots of people might be responding to. So it'll control the not necessarily the access, but how the reporting is plumbed. Does that make sense? And I don't think that's a bad question at all. I think that's reasonable to think about. Yeah. So I think that I covered most of the highlights, but since Jeff double checks all of our documentation and builds all of it, Jeff, is there anything you have been taking screenshots of that I did not just review for this?
No, I think that's all of it. The only other thing that we did do is add the PowerPoint. We can accept PowerPoint files and MSG files in the comments, the meeting notes and artifacts.
Okay.
So.
Perfect. So we can now add. And I know that Excel files in Report Locker was the other one that we talked about today. So in Report Builder, I doubt it's in here right this minute, but I do know we're adding it. I was asked yesterday if in Report Locker, right, we currently can upload PDFs, PowerPoints. We're also adding Excel here so that you'll be able to add Excels if you want to have. Yeah, MSG is available. We'll add extra preservatives to I don't know what that file is, to be honest. So I find that that's just not what I know, but I suspect lots of others on the call do now. I let a bunch of people in after I started the highlights of what we're going to be releasing. So I'm going to run through it again quickly. If you watched it once, you love it, and you don't have any comments on it, I won't be offended if